Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming as we kick off our first ever live webcast with all of you. Some of you are here because you are currently working with a coach, and some of you are here because maybe you were invited by a friend or a family member. And so regardless, I want to welcome you. My name is Molly Proct, and I will be joined by a number of different coaches that we have here at Aduro over the next couple of weeks. And collectively, we are so excited to be here and support you and the greater community with this additional opportunity as we navigate what life looks like right now. And so you'll notice that we have no slides. You'll see Jansen here as well, and we don't have fancy production teams on the other side of this. We are really here with you in this moment from our homes. And our vision for this is to be just that, intentionally organic and unscripted conversation. Like I said, we're in our homes, we're working remotely as well. We have the kids and the spouses and the dogs and the animals that probably will inevitably be interrupting us at some point during the next couple weeks. And so just like you were navigating this day by day. And so our hope for today and beyond is that you feel a sense of community and you feel a sense of connectedness with not only us as we share our kind of thoughts with you, but also the community that's also online from all over the country right now. And so we hope that you also leave with a few commitments that can foster a sense of empowerment for yourself and maybe a little bit of control right now within all the uncertainty. And so before we jump in, a few housekeeping items. You'll notice at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a Q&A button. And we want to encourage you to utilize that Q&A feature instead of the general chat feature to ask your questions to Jansen and I, and maybe share your concerns that you're facing right now. This will help us kind of navigate topics and questions that arise that we want to make sure we incorporate into our conversation today. I take incredible pride with the responsibility of not only bringing our coaches to you, but also bringing all of you to our coaches. And so if you submit a question, we are going to do our best to bring that into the conversation. And if we don't get to it today, we will absolutely incorporate it over the next couple of weeks on Thursdays as well. The last piece that I want to lead into this with is that as coaches, this is a bit of a different type of conversation for us. We're not super used to driving with our expertise without direct reciprocation from whomever we're working with at that given time. And so you'll notice that throughout today and throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll be asking some kind of outward focused coaching questions for you to kind of think through a little bit, not necessarily to chat or respond, but they're meant to spark some curiosity right now and possibly even shift some perspectives a bit. So with that, I am thrilled to be able to introduce to you one of Aduro's great coaches, Jansen Judge. Jansen, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am too. We were chatting about this a couple of days ago. We're like, we're going to have to be really succinct here because we could probably go on and on for a while beyond the 30 minutes. So we're going to do our best today.
Yes.
But considering the time that we are all in, and depending on where you live, we've all been navigating this kind of uneasy, uncertain, confusing time for quite a while now. And so today, Jansen and I want to walk through an area that not only we hear often from a lot of the people that we work with, but also that we're personally dealing with ourselves. And that's really the area of experiencing the emotional swing from good days all the way over to bad days and feeling like it's a gamble for which one you're going to get every single time you wake up. So Jansen, talk us through why this fluctuation, this feeling that a lot of us are experiencing is so common right now. And why does it feel so especially uneasy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's hard to even say good days and bad days, because I know for myself, I'll have a great morning and then a really rough lunch and then swing all the way up to good for dinner. So it's a lot of sway in how we're feeling, and that's normal at any time. Emotions are, by definition, volatile. They occur and then they go away and they change. And a lot of it is based on what's going on around us. And so the reason why emotions seem especially volatile right now is because we don't have a secure sense of what tomorrow is going to bring all the time. And when things are constantly changing, our feelings of being able to make meaning out of it and deal with that and understand what resources we'll need to deal with that, it's really, really hard. Our brain likes to know what's going to happen. It's one of the ways that we make meaning out of our entire lives. And so when we don't know what's going to happen, when we don't know what to expect, it creates a huge swing in our emotional experience because we're continually grasping for that ability to gather resources and make sure that we have what we need.
Mm. So like the normalizing whatever emotion that you're kind of experiencing at any given time gives yourself the power versus the uncertainty, the power,
Yeah.
essentially. And
Yeah.
when, before we dive in any, much further, I want to really clarify kind of like the emotional spectrum that we're talking about here today, and not and give some light to like the severity that emotions can actually end up with, and what maybe is an appropriate resource or next step to do when you actually notice that they are very much out of your control.
No, I appreciate that, Molly. That's really important. From the perspective of coaching and where we really want to best support you today is focusing in on what's within your control. Our emotions are going to swing wildly, but there are situations where our emotions stop being within our control.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find yourself feeling like you are maybe going into panic, or maybe you already have feelings of anxiety or depression and it's being worsened at this time, that's normal too. And it's a really ideal time to reach out to a professional resource in your life. If you've never reached out to a professional resource, there's no time like the present to get those tools and to get that support. Where we're coming from as your coaching team is really honing in on what is within our control.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also normal to not feel in control of our emotional experience. And that's a really great time to reach out for help. And if you're not sure where to go for help, we're happy to be that hub to help you find those resources. So it's definitely important to check in and to realize that experiences like this are normal. There's nothing wrong or bad about it, whether it's feeling extremely low or feeling extremely agitated or anywhere in between. These are human experiences. All of them make up this beautiful, messy life that we live. So it's really important to check in and make sure that if your own personal resources aren't doing the trick, if it still feels a little bit outside of your control, that you do touch base with a counselor or a therapist or someone who can provide very timely tools to help you get your feet back on the ground.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jansen. I think you said it perfect. There's no time like the present when you do feel like things are actually escalated to a point that you don't have the control anymore. And so if we're kind of looking at just the emotional kind of swing that we're talking about today, I want to kind of provide a little bit of understanding and kind of description around why, like naming the emotion and allowing that to kind of normalize the emotion. Why is that so important when we talk about this, like naming your emotions? And of course, like I just listened to a Brene Brown podcast, right? And this was all about kind of what she was talking about. And there's a lot of research around the power of naming something so it doesn't take over control. But can you talk through kind of what that is? Like what when we talk about like, oh, name your emotion, what are we actually talking about? And why is that important?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics. Kind of a game changer for me as I began to understand myself better, and a really important practice I have in my personal life. We have this tendency to bucket our emotions into very broad categories. I am good or I am bad. I've had a good day or a bad day. And not only is that kind of oversimplifying an experience, it also doesn't give you the opportunity to really address what you're truly needing. It leads to feelings of almost judgment. If I say this is a bad emotion, suddenly I'm trying to change it or avoid it, or I'm now feeling even worse about myself for having it. So naming your emotions means actually putting a word to what you're experiencing. I feel scared right now, or I feel sad. I feel really, really sad about what's going on in the world or my life. Or I feel really frustrated and angry right now. Or maybe today I feel hopeful, or today I feel grateful. When we name our emotions, it does two things. One, it encourages us to check in. So it creates a moment of mindfulness, of presence, where we are now willing to be with the emotion rather than trying to change it or avoid it. And the second thing it does is it allows us to figure out what we need. If I'm feeling sad, maybe what I need is to connect with someone I love. If I am feeling angry, maybe what I need is to go out for a run. I don't know, right? But it gives us this opportunity to actually take really good care of ourselves, which is so important. And from a brain science perspective and from our body perspective, it actually down regulates your system. So when you name your emotion, it physically changes your state and calms you down, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of probably provides a little certainty, which is very important. And I love how you mentioned, like, when you do this, when you recognize what it is that you are feeling, it allows you to get clear on what it is you are needing, right? What you actually need, and that then gives you a little bit more control than not being able to kind of compartmentalize and generalize your emotions, which, just like you said, leads to judgment, leads to shame, leads to guilt. And that can just be compounding when you kind of don't feel like you have control over what's going on in your head, for sure.
Yeah. And it really brings us back to that whole idea that when we're swinging from one emotion to another, because we don't have control, that understanding of self gives us a leg to stand on. And it gives us something that we do know, and it takes away any of the judgment that kind of gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so I would actually encourage, everyone listening in, if they could think about the array of emotions they've experienced in the past, I don't know, week,
Mm-hmm.
and start to maybe put names or words to some of the emotions you've experienced. It can be a really helpful practice to reflect and just start to think about what your emotions have looked like in this past week, and how you can meet your needs.
I love that. Building awareness around what is noticeable and predictable when you are maybe in a high versus a low can be really important as reminders and little pieces that can they can almost be little alerts, like, oh, I've noticed I'm upset because I'm doing XYZ. I've been diving into social media for, hours, and it's leaving me feeling very, very frustrated, right? Or noticing, like, gosh, I'm present with my children. I'm playing with my children. I'm looking up a recipe to make for dinner. I'm actually having a really good day. And so, just like Jansen said, start to kind of clarify and get clear, build some awareness around what is predictable when you are having a good day or a good moment, right? Kind of, just like you said, we can fluctuate all day long, but like when you are in a sense of peace or empowerment or control, what is predictable for you? And Jansen, like, from a science perspective, like what shifts kind of mentally or even behaviorally when we are kind of inside of the positive?
Yeah. So much. um, but
loaded question.
Loaded question. To keep it simple, the way we think and see the world changes depending on the emotion we're experiencing. And that's biological. It's actually really helpful. When we are experiencing challenging emotions like fear or grief, it tends to narrow our perspective, which a lot of times is a good thing. It helps us kind of get through to what we're needing next. However, it also inhibits things like creativity. It inhibits our ability to think outside the box. And so when we're experiencing positive emotions, and I don't just mean happiness, positive emotions come in the form of feeling content or peaceful. It could be feeling awe or seeing something that is beautiful. Positive emotions come in a number of flavors, if you will. And when we're experiencing positive emotions, it actually changes the way our brain sees the world. We see things from a bigger picture perspective. It almost allows us to zoom out and observe a broader range of what's available. And so it creates this really powerful experience where if you are feeling stuck or if you are feeling out of control, getting yourself into an experience of positive emotions, whether that's for me, snuggling my dog or my cat, or just going outside and being in the sunshine on this wonderful week we've had up here in Washington, it allows me to get unstuck. It literally allows my brain to get unstuck and see things from a different perspective.
I feel like that's such a powerful call out to notice just as very simple, quick, what we kind of refer to as like a change of state, kind of like changing your environment and your mental environment can shift this emotion, right? Kind of shift you over to the other side. And so with respect to just a standard coaching experience, Jansen, will you kind of walk us through gently, for everybody on the line, what does that actually look like and feel like in your body? I would love for you to walk us through kind of a exercise per se in terms of being able to kind of shift even the state that you're in right now as you're listening to us, to a different kind of perspective.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Before I do, I also want to clarify something. Negative emotions aren't bad. They are not something that you should not be experiencing or that you need to change. They can also clue us into things that are important to us. When we're feeling feelings like anger, guilt, grief, those are messages just like positive emotions. And so this is not meant to say negative emotions are something you need to avoid or get away from. They all give you something, some kind of message that clues you in to what can move you forward. And so changing your state isn't just about snapping out of it and getting happy. It's about identifying what you need to move forward. And so with that in mind, I would love for everyone to get kind of cozy where they are. If it helps you to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. You can also just lift your eyes away from the screen and focus on something in the distance. Take a couple of breaths or find a way to ground yourself in your body, whether that's uncrossing your legs and putting both feet on the ground, sitting up tall and noticing your posture. And tune into the emotion you're experiencing right now. Maybe it's peace or joy. Maybe today you are feeling frustrated or uncertain. Notice your experience without judging it, without needing to change it. Just be willing to be with how you are right now. Where in your body do you notice this emotion? What does it feel like? What is it telling you that you need? Now, if it's possible for you, I encourage you to do one thing that gives you what you need. That might be standing up if you're sitting down to stretch your arms over your head. It might be leaning your head side to side to release some tension in your neck. It could be as easy as just lifting the corners of your mouth and bringing to mind something that brings you a sense of love or gratitude or peace. As you do one thing to meet your needs, notice how that changes your experience, how that feels in your body. And even if the emotion you started with doesn't change, notice if you can allow it to loosen its grip on how you move forward with your day. Give yourself a moment. When you're ready, you can tune back in. Molly, I'm curious what stood out to you, if you're comfortable sharing with the group.
Yeah, when I was going through it and just recognizing how grateful I am right now to be actually right here and speaking with X amount of people on the line right now and kind of going through this. And I think, when we had these little moments of intention and presence, it really does open up the doors for what a possible next step looks like, even if that's doing something enjoyable today, right? And getting out of the worry or the fear or the confusion, which are absolutely normal, and stepping into something that kind of takes your mind off of things that may be a little bit heavy right now. And I think, Jansen, as we kind of wind down and kind of wrap up, knowing that it is okay, just like you said, to not feel okay right now. And we will get through it. And the worry and the fear and the uncertainty and the newness of each day that might not feel very opportunistic, but more, more kind of nervous curiosity will shift. And it is okay, exactly what you're feeling right now, whatever emotions you're feeling right now, whether you would classify them as in the positive bucket or classify them in the negative bucket, it is all okay.
Yeah. And, we had some questions come in, and I don't want to be afraid to jump into the real nitty gritty of this, because hard emotions are hard emotions. It's not something that we can paint over with a big broad brush. Some of you are maybe at home with people who are especially emotionally volatile and you're their support system, or maybe your tools aren't working anymore. Maybe you've had feelings of anxiety or stress and you are feeling really good about your toolkit and you feel like your toolkit just kind of got dumped out in the last month. That's also normal. And it's an opportunity. If you feel like your toolkit has been turned upside down, it's an opportunity to ask yourself what you need now, using what you know, right? Don't dismiss the strengths and the tools you had before. Take them with you and find ways to use them in a unique way. Find maybe a new tool or a new way to use that tool that might support you. And again, don't hesitate to reach out, whether it's to a coach or to a counselor or even to your friend, and say, hey, what are you doing to be okay right now? It can be really helpful to connect with other people and to realize that not only is it normal to experience your emotions, but that there's kind of this whole world around you who's also experiencing them. So don't hesitate to reach out. And if you're that support system for someone else, don't forget to take care of yourself too.
Mm.
You know, don't forget to build up your own resilience and resources, and realize that, you know, if someone is reaching out to you for support, one of my best tools as a coach is realizing that I actually can't change or fix anything for anyone. I can only provide a space for them to just be honest about how they're feeling. And that space is so much more than enough.
Mm.
To
And
just
even
have space to
inward,
be real. Yeah.
inward too, noticing that nobody else can provide you what you need for yourself right now too. So recognizing, you know, your expectations of your community, and who is your community that you're surrounding yourself with, and not necessarily physically, but just in terms of like who you connect with on a daily basis. What are those conversations like? Do you need something more for yourself inside of your community connection? Do we need to kind of expand the topic of conversation from everything that's happening right now to something else, right? And notice kind of like what you need for yourself from your community, and what you need from yourself for you as well.
Yeah. Awareness is a simple idea that packs a big punch.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you understand your needs. It helps you give name to what you're feeling. It helps you give yourself what you need in a meaningful way. It's really powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, this is probably the first time ever in history that we have wrapped up a conversation with us kind of on time. And so as we kind of walk away and we leave all of you, just think about one piece that is starting to become clear, and one area that maybe resonated with you today, whether it was being able to name your emotions, kind of normalize them, or the simple exercise that Jansen took us to and kind of changing your mental environment at that time. And recognize by owning it a little bit more kind of allows you to take the control in the next step a little bit more. And typically when we think about next steps and what are you going to do when you walk away, it's easy to feel like you're going to, like, let's do a lot, let's take on a lot of pieces all at once. And typically the right step is normally the first step that's easiest to take, right? So recognize what is within your ability today to do to shift your intention and gain some resilience. Notice kind of what you do have control over, and always reach out to your community, to a professional, to us, whomever actually fills your cup up when you need it during your day. Yeah. So thank you, Jansen. This was awesome. We hope everyone enjoyed this. Please make sure that you have it on your calendar every Thursday at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I will be here along with more of our amazing coaches, and we wish you well. We wish you the best, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks, everybody, for joining.